not smart enough to think of doubling the resources instead of killing half of the people.
Double the resources, the more there is to take. An excess of resources can be just as dangerous, just as destabilizing.
How does that mean that half the life will not do the exact same thing? So today I'm going to react to Thanos vs 20 Avengers. It's a Jubilee parody by the account Super Rami on YouTube. You should check it. Kinda like the idea of it. I know was challenged Thanos on his idea on how he wanted to save the universe. So let's get it.
I am Thanos, and today I am surrounded by 20 Avengers.
Starts off very deep. My
first claim is that everything I did was to relieve the universe of the suffering it could not bear. My plan to remove half of all life was not cruelty, it was mercy. Removing half of life was the least harmful choice.
That's already crazy. Removing half life was the least harmful choice. I don't believe that. I know a lot of people did. A lot of people were like pro Thanos, saying that Thanos did nothing wrong. I don't know what those people were on, but let's see him defend this claim. Let's see. I'm even surprised that we even have 20 Avengers. Is Gamora an Avenger? Is Gamora an Avenger? Because now that I'm looking at the Avengers, Gamora. Looking at Avenger. How is Loki an Avenger? I mean, I know he's a good guy. I saw, the Loki series. We love this character, redemption, his character arc, him coming into being a good guy. I Loki, pun intended, want to see what he and Thor, would interact like right now, right? What he would be, because, Thor always says, I know you're going to be like a great brother.
No, Thanos, I never understood. How can you live 1,000 years, devote all those years to one problem, all of that, just to end up with such a stupid, hollow plan?
The plan was proven. It was executed multiple times, and it worked. The entire universe united against it, and not one faction could stop it.
Until we did.
And you had to risk the existence of the multiverse to do that. And what did you do next to solve the problem? Nothing, and my planning is bad.
What we do is never perfect, and we admit that. The problem is that we often don't.
The Avengers have admitted to a few small errors, like creating an homicidal robot. Okay, Ultron. Ultron was not the Avengers' fault, right? Ultron can be attributed to Tony. Tony and Bruce pretty much made Ultron. That was not the Avengers. You can't really blame the entire team. You could try to, but you can't blame the entire team for it, right? Like creating a homicidal robot, dropping a city from space. Is that them? Wasn't that Ultron? Okay, yeah, Ultron is still them technically, and starting a global civil war, which technically was because of Ultron, and then they had to keep in check. And was it even a global civil war, or am I forgetting something? I thought the civil war was within the Avengers themselves. What that soldier did at the United Nations or at the meeting, that was not him being an Avenger at the time. So I think that's there's a lot of nuance to all of these things. I think this is being a bit harsh to them. And time traveling to undo their own disasters. They didn't cause the disaster. Thanos is a problem of his own. He's not an Avenger. The Avengers did not make a mistake. You could pretty much say, okay, Doctor Strange pretty much giving the stone to Thanos probably caused this, and you can have that rebuttal and all of that, but he pretty much explained that this was the best way to go about things. So I don't know. I don't know that I agree with all of this. And yes, people still share them at this point. Their best superpower might be the PR. Yeah, I mean, I might not even deny that. I won't deny that. Not all of them have good PR, but yeah, I get it.
Don't have a choice, unlike
I didn't have any choice either.
You had an abundance of choice. You just wanted to kill. But violence doesn't solve problems. You were smart enough to...
Historically, violence had solved about 80% of the Hulk's problems. Where is the lie? Where is the lie? It's not the point he's making, but where is the lie? Violence has solved about 80. You could even take it to 90% of the Hulk's problems. Jesus, wow, what a way to like... Whoever is fact-checking and not on the Avengers side, it's not a good person. It's not. Shasha, let's see.
To find the stones, but not smart enough to think of doubling the resources instead of killing half of the people.
Double the resources, the more there is to take. The fiercer the battle to possess it. An excess of resources can be just as dangerous, just as destabilizing, as the lack of
That
them.
is total bullshit.
I agree with the Hulk. That's total bullshit. What do you mean that double the resources means that it's going to be dangerous because it means double the effort to take it? How does that mean that half the life will not do the exact same thing? That doesn't make any sense.
From experience, I have witnessed planets die.
No credible evidence suggests that so many resources in civilized planets. Historically, most societies that collapse from abundance were actually destroyed by greed and incompetence, so you could have just deleted that, genius. Yeah, see, that's a good point to make, actually. That's a very good point to make. Why not just delete the people who have greed and incompetence? But then that works against this entire mantra of balance and all that jazz. So I guess it doesn't work. We'll have to see where it goes with this, how he defends himself.
Life from starvation,
Mm.
yes. But I have also witnessed society's collapses from having too much, from the
Mm.
greed and endless fighting that abundance
I don't buy
fuels.
that. But even if your goal was to specifically limit the growth of population because you think it's the best plan, there are many other ways to do that, like random sterilization of half of the population, or locking the populations to a maximum.
Random sterilization is crazy suggestion, Hulk. Jesus, I don't think people would agree to that either. Hmm. But carry on.
Number of individuals, in a way that once that point is reached, it becomes impossible to get pregnant until someone dies.
Wow,
I don't really agree with even those,
but
but they're
you don't
still
agree.
so much better than
You
genocide
really
of
think that would
half of all
stop them?
life.
You think they wouldn't find a way around it? We live in a universe where magic and technology
Sources say that Thanos. Sources close to Thanos say that he used the mindset to come up with the best argument to defend his plan. Listening to him now, unfortunately, even an object of infinite intelligence couldn't fix that logic.
define nature
Say that they
every
would find
day.
a
Do you
way around
honestly
it.
believe
Crazy.
people wouldn't find a way to reproduce
come
anyway?
on. You're really trying to convince us you had no other option when you literally held the power to reshape reality. They are called the Infinity Stones because infinite possibilities. You expect us to believe you were utterly constrained?
Yes, there is probably some super complex.
Yeah, that's a lot to force us to believe they're a big man. Like, honestly, like I said this before, and yes, it's true. You can make the argument that the Infinity Stones in the comics don't work the same way in the MCU. In fact, Infinity Stones through different continuities don't work the exact same way if you've kind of looked at it. So that sort of makes sense. And if the Infinity Stones in the MCU worked the way it worked in the comics, honestly, who had what bars, what things did they have to stop Thanos? They wouldn't be able to do so. So yeah, I understand that putting into the pretty much the idea of what the comic books would be is bad. But at the same time, you have almost unlimited resources. Like you didn't need to do that at the time. In fact, one of the major reasons that they tried to stop him was because they knew exactly what he was going to do. If he was probably going to take some time, okay, I can't speak that if he was going to take some time to do something else, they would leave him be. That's way too much power to leave in anybody's hands, anyways. But then, bro, saying that you were utterly constrained is crazy.
Complicated, highly elaborated plan that could have worked, but you used the stones. You know how hard they are to use. The more complicated the plan, the greater the risk of catastrophic error. My plan was the
To the fact, it's important to know that this guy's plan B was to destroy and rebuild the entire universe, real minimalist approach. Okay, so is this part one or part? Is this like Infinity War or Endgame Thanos, or are they mixing the two of them together? Because I personally just separate the two. I actually think that both of them are separate characters. Because the way Endgame Thanos was moving, he was moving mad. That guy did not have much to tell people. It was like, either you follow the plan or you call it. This guy was at least giving speeches. He was acting all fatherly somewhat. If they're mixing the two, though, I guess that's right. But yeah, his B plan was to destroy. He only just tried to destroy the entire universe and recreate it because of what he saw later on. And the effect was pretty much people refused to move on. A lot of people, not everybody, but a lot of people refused to move on for what was. Hence why they tried to bring that back, and that's not what he was looking for. So he decided to destroy and start afresh.
perfect balance, simplicity and
And
efficiency.
slicing existence in half doesn't risk things going wrong.
Yeah.
Your plan is everything but efficient. A hell of things can go wrong. The first I can think about is how killing 50% doesn't leave you with 50% alive. People depend on each other. Children need parents. Communities rely on key individuals. That instantaneous loss of half of life guarantees far more than 50% dying in the ensuing
Think I can
chaos.
consider that people depend on each other, that losing one life can take 10 more with it? I did, but dependency is exactly why balance had to be forced. I know it causes chaos. I've seen it before. I never got to try it on my own world, but I did see it work elsewhere. Planets that followed my plan rebuilt stronger. Every time the pattern was the same.
He's practically saying that he doesn't care if, it doesn't actually end up as 50-50. So far, so good. They rebuild stronger and all of that. I don't know. Does that work with his ethos? Does that work with his idea, who he is, what he is personally? I don't know. Is it a good rebuttal? No, it's not really a good rebuttal for me. But it is what it is.
Team first, then order. The ones who survived didn't just rebuild, they built better.
That is what you always do, isn't it? You break the world, and then you talk long enough to convince yourself it was the only way. You twist every mess into proof that you were
And
right.
you and your friends love to talk about what's wrong. You preach your soft, easy views. Killing is bad, so you can feel clean while the universe rots the same way it always has. You had the stones, and what did you do? You used them to put everything exactly back how it was.
The thing about Thanos, right? The thing about Thanos' entire motive or his motivation is that he's not necessarily wrong from where he's coming from. It's how he's going about it that's the problem, right? When you listen to him, you have no choice but to be convicted of the ideas because you feel the pain, right? You feel the pain of what is happening. People are dying, certain things are happening left, right, and center. And you're like, you know what, something needs to be done. And I think that's where the radicalization comes from. He's not the ultimate utilitarian, but he's up there with some of the craziest utilitarians that you can find, right? He doesn't care about this emotionally. He's just thinking about how this will benefit, billions to trillions of people in the future. Because at the end of the day, on the path that we are going right now, we don't have the resources to sustain ourselves. You sort of see it, like you sort of see where the good in the idea is. The problem, like I said, is the execution. You cannot do this. I mean, even from a selfish point of view, I don't want this to happen to me. I get it, I understand it, I would see the utility in it, but you can also see why people would push back against this heavily because with that much power, you cannot tell me that there is nothing else that you can do. Your hands are not tied. Right. So, like, even as he puts it right now, even as he talks about his motive and why he's doing all of this, it makes sense. The Avengers, they didn't really solve the problem. They just turned everything back to the way it used to be. So at the end of the day, they didn't solve the initial issue that made the villain. They just defeated him and then they moved on. And yeah, that can be frustrating in and of itself too. So you see where he's coming from.
You saved no one. You just made sure nothing changed.
Yeah.
Look, no matter how great your imaginary spreadsheet says the results are, genociding half of all existence can never be right.
I wouldn't call what I did a genocide.
You killed half of the entire universe. What are we calling it then?
I didn't kill them. It was a painless erasure. They weren't going to get a better end.
He's arguing semantics. So basically, because it was 50% of the universe, it was no particular race, it was just randomly different people going, but in the exact half, and that makes it fine that it's not genocide. It's pretty much something else. This was the argument that Thanos made in What If.
Even in the best case scenario, it was random and not biased. It can never be called a genocide. You see it as a necessary, natural event.
I felt the horror of that snap, buddy.
Yeah,
Still by far the worst experience of my entire life.
The fact check says that record shows that Peter lost his uncle to a murder, his mentor to a sacrifice, his aunt to a supervillain, and dated in high school. Statistically speaking, the snap is still fighting for second
You can
place.
call it whatever you want because you
Yeah,
are
My
that's
experience
really
far
smart.
worse than that. And everything I did was intended to prevent you and everyone else from experiencing the same.
And who gave you the right to choose for us?
It's not a right, it's a responsibility. I was the only being in the universe with power great enough to save everybody. And you know it best, Spider-Man. With great power comes great responsibility.
Quoting Uncle Ben to cut half of the universe is crazy. They say if I say the quote originates from Spider-Man's late uncle, using it to justify mass extinction, it's like quoting Danny to explain why you punched him up. Truly, it's crazy work, bro.
Dare you? That mantra can never justify what you did. Great responsibility is the responsibility to preserve the right to choose. It's not the authority to force what you think is right on
What
them.
if they clearly lack the ability to know what's right
They
for them?
still have the right to choose. You don't get to decide what's right, you god-complex maniac.
So, let's say, hypothetically, that the majority of the people of New York decide to start supporting the Green Goblin, for example. Would you let them do that? Or would you do what you think is
I
actually
am
right?
certainly not going to go and kill all of them. They will certainly be misled, but I will not try to force them to what I think is right. I will try to understand and see where they are coming from.
Trustfully, a remarkably similar situation was occurred when the world actually did turn on Peter against after Mysterio exposed him. He didn't quite understand and guide anyone. Instead, he used the wizards to erase everybody's memory. Which is crazy work from Spidey, Sha. It's crazy how we just let that slide because, we know his perspective and he's a hero and we love him and care about him. On a normal day, anybody else, this guy a bad guy or that was ethically wrong. But since it was Spidey, we let it slide. This fact check is true though. Spidey, you might not, you might not be right in this situation.
And then guide them and inspire them to do what's right. That's the true responsibility that comes with power.
My second claim is, emotions have no place in decisions that shape the universe. The Avengers act from fear, anger, and guilt. I act from reason. I see the wound. I make the cut. Pain is irrelevant if it brings balance. Emotion clouds judgment. Logic brings order.
You can't claim that, Thanos, when you yourself are a terrible emotional mess.
I didn't doom the future of the universe just because I refused to sacrifice beings I love. Beings that are actually insignificant in the grand scheme
Acting
of things.
pragmatic doesn't work when
I
you're emotional.
sacrificed everything, even myself. I was ready for everything I love, even my own self, to be erased in that snap. because I can see the bigger picture.
Acting pragmatic doesn't work when your emotions are the reason you were blinded enough to proceed with such a crazy plan.
I didn't want to do that. I sacrificed all I wanted to do what's best for the others. I kept my heart in constant pain because I know the mind is the path to virtue.
You are only acting out of trauma. When you saw your planet dying, you suggested genocide and you were laughed out of the door. When it fell apart, you were ashamed and you developed a deep, selfish need for redemption. You were humiliated last time, so you would let nothing stop your plan, not even.
No,
Just
Doctor.
get out.
You mistake trauma for clarity. My planet's death didn't wound me. It opened my eyes. I watched a civilization collapse because it chose comfort over truth, hope over balance. I learned that emotion blinds, that mercy can doom more lives than cruelty ever could. I didn't act from grief.
Guy fact
I acted from vision.
It's artist.
I saw what no one else would see, and I did what no one else would
You
dare.
sound like I once did. Back when I was a surgeon, I believed precision and control could solve everything. Pain, chaos, even death itself. I was so obsessed with logic, I forgot I was human. Losing my hands forced me to learn balance. Now I let my heart guide me.
Strange newfound balance between heart and mind is dominated. However, his heart may have slightly been oversteered when he decided to rewrite the memories of the entire planet because of one teenager who was having a rough week. True.
Me as much as my mind. I don't ignore emotion anymore. I trust it when it.
You always speak like a man examining a patient, pretending you see everything that others can't. You stand there, dissecting me as if I'm another case on your table, but I am not your patient. I am the cure. The universe is sick, and I'm the only one willing to operate.
Maybe I do have the bad habit of diagnosing. But allow me one last diagnosis. You've got a serious case of main character syndrome. You don't serve the universe. You think the universe serves your story.
There.
I used to
So Dr. Strange claims to have overcome his main character syndrome, a statement well supported by evidence. In Multiverse of Madness, he was, in fact, not the main character of his own movie. Facts. Right? Facts. I mean, he was sharing the sport. He was sharing the spotlight like Wanda and America Chavez, so yeah.
think like that. I thought I was the center of the world, until the universe reminded me I wasn't. The difference between us, Thanos, is that I learned to step out of the story. You still believe you're the only one who can write the ending.
Thanos, my problem with you isn't just what you made. It's your entire worldview.
How deep
You look
look
at people and see problems to solve. I look at them and see lives worth trusting, worth believing in.
Trust them to do what exactly? Destroy them? Because that's what they do. Every time I've watched it happen on world after world.
Then you help them do better. You don't just erase half of them and call it mercy. People have a right to choose their own path, even if it's messy. Especially if it's messy. That's what
Messy is a mild way to describe the end of worlds. Tell me, are you saying I should respect the will of the people, even when I know they're leading themselves to ruin? You'd really do
They
that?
were not wrong. You were. But to answer that question, yes, you should respect their will, even if
Steven says that the people will must be trusted. This position is overcomplicated by the fact that the last time he encountered a popular movement gone wrong, he solved it with vibranium.
they wrong. And
You're talking about even more. Then let's test your conviction. Hypothetically, half the universe votes for my plan. A referendum, a democratic mandate. They agree. Erase half of all life to save the whole. The people have spoken.
Crazy
Would you
hypothetical.
still fight me? Or would you respect the will of the people?
That's not a fair question. The people will never do that.
It's just a hypothetical. You say the people's will is sacred. So tell me, if they chose me, would you stand aside?
No, I'd fight you, because there are some lines you don't cross.
There it is. So the will of the people shouldn't always be respected. You'd override
Gotcha.
them, impose your moral vision over theirs.
That's not what...
It's exactly what you're saying. You believe in democracy right up until the moment they choose something you find unacceptable. Then suddenly, you know better. We're not so different, Steve. We both fight for a vision. We both believe we're right. The only difference is, I don't pretend
No,
otherwise.
the difference is I'd spend every moment before that vote trying to show them another way. I'd argue. I'd persuade. I'd offer alternatives. I wouldn't give up on them. You never even gave them the
And if
chance.
they still voted yes, after all your speeches, what then?
I'd have to live with knowing I failed to reach them. But I wouldn't
Leave you knowing the society lives are
disposable just because I think they are
You
wrong.
call that strength? Living with failure while everything falls apart? That's not virtue. That's surrender wrapped in
The world isn't perfect, Thanos. It never will be. But that's not a flaw. That's what makes it worth fighting for. People stumble. They fail.
Okay, we kind of have to talk about that, right? Like saying that you leave the decision to the people, even if you feel they are wrong, and then allowing them cast themselves or cast everything. And saying that you will live with that is sort of crazy. I don't know if I agree with that. Is that Is that okay? Is that okay? I don't know. This is what makes this hero thing so weird. Where it's like, oh, well, heroes were supposed to let people, pretty much choose the way. We cannot impose our own rule heroes. But I think I saw this on Amatu, on, this guy's TikTok, and he said, if someone like Hitler was in power and he was doing all of this bad for so long, and then before the Americans could win, or before, the USSR could win against him, how long would he have to be in power before the heroes decide to step up and do something about it? This is weird, right? This is a weird place to be, to see oppression and see things of this magnitude happen and not do anything about it because you want to respect the people's will is crazy to me. I don't know. I don't know if I agree with this. I refuse to agree with this, really.
They rebuild. That's how they...
So you've made peace with failure. Tell me, Steve, if perfection were possible, would you accept
If you mean a world without suffering, without hate, then yes, of course I would. But that word...
Then
doesn't
why did you
exist.
reject it when I offered it?
Offered it? Killing half the universe isn't perfection. It's
I'm not
erasure.
talking about that.
Then what are you talking about?
I'll explain it in my next claim. My final claim is that the Avengers don't serve the universe. They serve their illusion of being its saviors. When I abandoned my first plan and offered to build something better, a universe without hunger, without pain, they refused. Not because it was evil,
Mixed the two
but
things.
because it wasn't theirs.
What was your new plan again?
You made me realize that this universe is broken beyond repair. So I offered to create a new one, balanced, abundant, free of suffering.
Right. So you went from kill half to kill everyone. Big improvement. Real character.
Your perspective is too small. I'm not killing. I'm erasing everything and starting over. No one will feel anything. They'll simply wake up in a perfect universe.
We stopped you because you're not the god of this universe who gets to restart it whenever you don't like how things are going.
You did exactly that when I did things you didn't like. You played God with space and time to change the universe back into a way that suited you.
Fixed what you broke. We're not changing the universe to fit us.
True that, Sha, true that. You can't put that on them, especially because he was the one who started. They more or less reacted. It's like what Tony will always say, they're the Avengers, right? They pretty much reacted to the things that he did.
We're bringing it back to the way it was,
Which is what fits you.
which fits everybody. Everyone agreed with our plan. Everyone
I don't
supported
think
it.
they will.
Fact check, according to the recent unofficial poll, the Avengers plan against Thanos ranked second in effectiveness with 97.3% approval. Narrowly losing to Ant-Man entered Thanos' posterior, which scored an unprecedented 99.8%. You guys are mad. All of you are mad.
When their worlds start crumbling again, you reinforce the same system that failed before. Tell me, Tony, you said you don't trust me with restarting the universe, but you had the stones. Why didn't you do
Because
it?
I'm not a crazy...
With which time? Tony, you don't know, like, which time? Which time you get to a phone, say you want to use the stones to Kiniko? You died after you used the stones against him. He wasn't willing to, like, give you people the chance to do so. Y'all were in a fight. You didn't have the time to make the decision or make the plan, right? It's not something you can hold over to the... Please, Tony, don't even say it. There's no need to defend that.
psychopath who thinks he's a god.
But you were in that moment, whether you admit it or not. You had the power to fix everything. End disease, hunger, war, and you chose not to.
My job was to fix what you broke, to bring everybody back.
And bring their misery back with them when you could have stopped it. You had omnipotence in your hands, and you chose this, a world still full of suffering.
Because it's their suffering to overcome, not mine to erase. You think wiping the slate clean makes you a savior? It makes you a coward who couldn't handle the universe as it
I'm
actually...
the only one who saw it clearly. You brought...
Minimizing what Thanos saw, what Thanos was saying is kind of crazy to me, right? You don't have to say that, he couldn't handle the world the way it was. You being able to handle all that death, all of that world's ending and all of that, and when you're seeing it face to face, it's not a good look. It's not a good look. But obviously, he was right on the other part, right? It's not a crazy maniac and all of that. Something needed to be done about the problems in the universe. Something needed to be done. It's just that Thanos' way of going about it was not the right way.
Back 5 billion people to a planet that was already collapsing under its own weight. Within a generation,
They'll
they'll...
figure it out.
That's
That's what
figured it
people
out
do.
before. Your sentimentality blind
Your
reads
arrogance
basic
is exactly
mathematics,
why no one
population
believes
growth,
anything.
resource depletion, climate.
You see people as numbers
You
on a...
see them as children who need protecting. At least I'm honest about making hard choices instead
Hard
of pretending everyone can just...
Snapping your fingers is easy. Actually solving problems. Actually believing...
Believing accomplishes nothing when the ship is sinking. Action.
Murder isn't...
Restoration
It's
isn't
surrender.
salvation. It's delusion.
Says the guy who wanted to kill literally everyone.
To save everyone, which is more
You
than
can't
you.
save people by erasing
And you
them.
can't save them by doing nothing.
Okay, the video was fun. The video was fun to watch, at least, right? It was somewhat enjoyable to see. And I was hoping to see Loki, because Loki was there. I was hoping to see Loki actually have a discussion or say something to Thanos, because I was wondering what his entire talking points would be, being that he is Loki and he has been one of the biggest problems in the universe. But he did talk about it is what it is. Did what it is. So, on to the next one. If you liked the video, like, subscribe, share, come back again, turn on the notification. Thank you.